Hey everyone, and welcome. In this video, we're going to be looking at the lion's share treasure of There's Treasure Inside. Now, I wanted to start this kind of next series, which is covering all of the chapters. And I do once a month videos typically, and so I'll probably do like multiple sections or like chapters. But in this one, I wanted to at least kind of start with the baseline information of this, which is the cover, up through the introduction, which is also the how to read this book. So after this, we'll start at chapter 1 and go from there. Might be a couple of chapters. I think it just kind of depends on how much information is in each one. First thing I wanted to discuss is the ebook versus the physical. There's a lot of different, I guess, opinions and just discussion on it. I wanted to at least address a couple of those big ones, at least in my mind. And then also in these videos, I will be using the ebooks primarily. Keep that in mind. I have the Apple ebooks, just letting you know so you know what you're looking at. Always double check your own references, information, and what's out there. To get to these 2 points, 1, it seems that you don't need the part 2 treasure chapters to solve this lion's share's worth of treasure. Second, it seems if that is true, you don't need the back of the book and you don't need behind the sleeve because those are not in the ebooks for the lion's share. We'll get into that a little bit later, but that's kind of the big things between the physical and the ebook, which I think reduces the amount of areas to look for it. Again, it might be off, it might be, details that are missing in it, or it might be so minor, didn't need to be in there. Now, to look at the different physical and ebook differences, here's kind of the main things that are different. In the physical book, the cover had this like haiku that started with like the be solid, have grit, da-da-da-da. Then there's the treasure inside, black pages. There's the black TTI copyright. Page 5 is the dedication. 6 is table of contents. 7 is there. And then basically is the same identical pages from there on out. In the ebook, it's a little bit different. The first thing is it actually has the lion's share treasure on the front of it versus the normal one doesn't. Page 1 is the same. Page 2 is a little different. It's still that black page, but it has be solid, have grit, that haiku, if you want to call it that. And then page 3, 4, 5, 6 is all the same. Page 7, which is the part 2 table of contents, removes that part 2 part. So everything else, at least from what I see, is the same. And then from there, basically the pages line up and seem identical from what I've seen. Now, going back to it, this is the sleeve part here, and I'll pause it. This part is not included in the ebook. Thus, it seems like you don't need it. Same in the back, all of this is not included. So that seems like unnecessary information. So again, back and lower half of the X in the front is not included, and the entire back area is not included as well. So really it seems like in all of that, that haiku is part of it because it was included, and those other parts that are excluded are not needed to solve. Again, might be wrong in that too, but I would assume if you have the ebooks, you should be able to solve the puzzle with it. So all of the clues should be included. That would be a question. If I ever had the chance to ask John Collins Black, would there be an advantage or disadvantage to having only the ebook or only the hardcover book? Now, let's get started. Page 1 through 5. There's already a lot of stuff to look at and consider, or at least I kind of, it's like, this is interesting. Again, in the ebook, there's this haiku, although it's not a true haiku, but seems like it might be the haiku. Is the be solid, have grit, sparkle even as you pine, here lies the joy divined. and it seems like that's important. The symbol is also interesting. Why is that there? Especially because it seems like you don't need to dig. Is that just kind of a treasure hunting looking type emblem, or is there something about it? There's this symbol a lot of people have speculated as like a J, C, and then a B. Could be the John Collins Black. There's Treasure Inside Unofficial Podcast. Had what I think is a pretty crazy connection with this symbol of the butterfly in another book that John Collins Black did, the children's book, Our Unbreakable Threads. This was something that was added to the book without the illustrator's knowledge, which is a butterfly. This could be a butterfly kind of connecting the two. I'm like 100% on board that has to be something. Again, might not be, but to me, it makes sense. But anyway, there's that. There's even this red line that might have something to do with something, and this quote. Now, already on these ones, it's like, are these clues? Are these nothing? Is it something? And, already between the first few pages, I'm already kind of sounding crazy. I already have, this board of like trying to connect things to all sorts of stuff. Like, what does it mean? Conspiracies. Anyway, as we read, hopefully it makes more sense. This is one of the big differences in the physical versus ebook that was changed. Here you can see pretty much everything is the same, at least from what I've seen. The page numbers line up, and that's why I didn't include like a long page number changes. Even the graphics kind of have the same. I'll stop moving my mouse, but everything kind of lines up as it's supposed to be. Now in this one, you can see the part 2 is included in the physical table of contents, but the ebook removes it. And it makes sense because it's not included. And just this kind of, you subtract some pages, which again, back to that original question, would it be more beneficial to have only the ebook? Because then that now reduces the amount of pages you need to look through. And me personally, I think that does seem like it's a better choice, or rather just omitting part 2 completely. You don't need that information to solve this specific treasure. Could be wrong. There's probably some helpful parts to it. One example would be if you solve one of these and get the extra clue, that would help you with this. Solving those things would help you. However, outside of just seeing how John Collins Black writes, I don't think anything in those 4 smaller boxes have to do with it. Again, people disagree with me most likely, but that's kind of where I'm at. Now, one thing in these videos is I'm trying to go through this in each chapter like it's the first time I've read through it. I already know in the back of my mind, I have things I'm looking out for, but I'm going to try to add those theories and concepts linearly, meaning as we go through, if he says something that is, for example, telling you how to read, to try to do it in that way. Already, though, I know I have some thoughts to it. For example, in this third reading for me, I think the lion's share would be in the Midwest. I have my reasons, and I'll try to point them out as we go. Can also be convinced, and what I think today or a week ago is different than what I'll think 2 weeks from now, or even tomorrow I might change some of it. Second, 7 clues are in the lion's share. And that's a theory that I have. It is in the back of my mind, and that's from the poem at the end. Joy Serenade has 7 lines. The box has 7 clues, or rather 7 different steps to open the box. And that's the physical box, and we'll get there. Themes, I feel like in my mind, it seems like colors might be it, emotions, butterfly/evolving, or like kind of starting from one thing and turning into something else. light, space, music, even kind of this like calendar, maybe birthstone type of thing. I don't know. There's a lot of different themes that kind of seems like those are the things that a lot of the content kind of boils down to. And finally, Jonerisms, although it kind of sounds medical or something, that would be like the right prints, which is sort of like this unique style of writing that John Collins Black kind of has throughout his book, I think are fairly important. An example of one of these Jonerisms would be this quote: "Like the proverbial moth to the fiery flame, I am drawn to joy." Who writes like that? John does. That's what I'm talking about with this kind of right print. It kind of has his fingerprint in how he's writing specifically here. Another one is the genesis of this project arrived in a flash, and it landed somewhat jarringly, an idea riding like a wild cowboy upon a lightning bolt of inspiration. What does that mean? Seems like a clue to me. Anyway, I digress. Let's go into the introduction. Now, here's a few different quotes that I thought was interesting. And like I said, tying into those themes in the back of my mind, still is like, why are you saying this? And from there, still others summarize if they can figure out how my brain works, it might help them figure out where I hid the 5 treasures. Now, is that true or not? He kind of responds to that thought that others have. And I've been given different responses, but upon reflection, I've come to realize the most accurate answer is that I, like the proverbial moth to the fiery flame, am drawn to joy. I simply want my experiences as much joy as I can. And there's no greater high I get when I am sharing joys with others. That's another one, maybe kind of in that, like, Jonerism, like, what does that mean? The genesis of this project arrived in a flash, landed somewhat jarringly, an idea riding a wild cowboy upon lightning bolt of inspiration. So that again, and kind of the yellow that I've highlighted, all talk about this like light and darkness. I mean, again, there's stuff here of like flying, moth and butterfly potential. I don't know, kind of goes all over and continues on. Yet in the darkness of conflict, a light reveals to us the elemental truth about our human condition, and our hunt illuminates the common fabric we share. An important truth gets far too often left unacknowledged. The fundamental treasures everyone of us seek are all the same. All of these kind of point to this like innate joy, or, kind of the inspiration for him is just finding joy in life. Creating this project was fun. Doing this treasure hunt is fun, at least to me. And we all kind of seek the same thing, stuff that makes, life more enjoyable, I guess. Whether or not that's what it is, or it's a clue, talking about light, illuminating, stuff like that. I don't know. Just how he writes is just odd. To continue on, he even said, it's like an organic creature evolving, growing longer and larger day by day. Later, he continues, I can't tell you how often I added a new rare piece, and it appears available seemingly like out of nowhere, as if an invisible hand was guiding my task, orchestrating each step from afar. And this is a little more, I guess, on this thought or summary that each of his treasures could have something to do with the hunt or with the clues. Even it continues, the objects in our treasure are my co-authors. Their stories create the structure of the book, and some of the clues to find this largest treasure, lion's share is the nickname, are found within the histories of those treasure items. If you decide to seek these treasures out, take solace in knowing these objects inside the box have illuminated your way. So again, a lot of this introduction is just this odd, like, quotes like I'm pulling from here. it does talk about how the treasures can be the co-authors, so the history actually means something. And it's just interesting. These ones are from a previous video, and I'm going to kind of summarize them. I'll link it in the description, but essentially this is some different patterns or clues, and this is talking about the how to read section. These seem like some of the most important parts of the book because it really tells you what you're supposed to do as you read it. And as I discussed linearly, although I've already done that in the past of this book, being the introduction, is that you need to see every chapter has something to take away from it, a lesson, a message, or something for our daily lives. Almost every chapter of the first 23 includes some morsel of information for finding the location of the largest treasure box. The first thing I'd advise is to read through this book once through thoughtfully, and I'd suggest jotting down anything that makes your spidey sense tingle. That's where now I'm kind of going through. I am reviewing it. I have written down those things, and that's kind of what's in this presentation. As I go through these chapters again, I guess just to stop it, I would love to hear, are these the things that you guys thought were kind of the spider senses? Did you have something else? Leave comments. I always love discussion and hearing from others, but also wanted to share what I found kind of interesting or curious. If you find a topic or story captivating or intriguing, go research it further. It's not outside the realm of possibilities. That was his exact intention. So the topics and stories, the treasures, play a role into it. This is another discussion or opinion that I've kind of created in myself, which is if he's doing that with these stories, I think it's absolutely on the table. He might have a similar, like how the boxes were made or how the boxes are opened to also fuel that. He already has things from the past that he says go research because it might be part of the clues. So I think the boxes are also totally open into that. What I mean by that is each box actually has a puzzle description within that box. For example, Forrest Fenn said 3 precise movements. Pokemon is a precise combination of panels to slide to open, again, the puzzle box. Past and future box has 5 steps to open. Now in this, there is, if you've looked into that box, in the word search says there are 5 clues in this word search. So 5 steps, 5 clues perhaps. Appalachian Footpath is a combination lock and puzzle. So maybe some numbers somehow and the puzzle being the map. Again, once when one of these is solved, I think that'll really show if this theory has something to do with it or not. Finally though, the lion's share, which I know is in the future chapters here, and I'll discuss it more in that, says there's 7 actions. The final poem at the end has 7 stanzas, and so to me, those 7 stanzas are the 7 actions you have to take to open the lion's share box or solve the puzzle to get to it. Again, that's kind of my theory, my running theory on all of these, and could be right, could totally be off too. While this was on another video, I wanted to at least share it again, just to kind of show why I think the lion's share might be in this area. One is that these are ones that are kind of the confirmed or potential area. The Rockies are set. The road trip for the Pokemon box is pretty set. Appalachian Trail is pretty set. So it's kind of like these ones are all there, and there's nothing in the Midwest for it. And that's kind of front and center where everything is. So to me, kind of makes sense there. Now, it could totally be in Florida. It could totally be in like Washington or something out west, especially if the past and future is more in Ohio or Indiana or somewhere close in that area. I think that would definitely move the lion's share to be more in that area. And it could be that there are 2 that are fairly close. I think the only parameter is there's never going to be 2 boxes in one state. I believe, is in there. I don't have that quoted, so please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. Kind of to summarize all of this, there are 5 different locations for all of them. The lion's share is in the 5th box, and clues are in anywhere, chapters 1 through 23. Each chapter, almost each chapter, has something, some sort of morsel, as he says. I think that there are 5 researchers that helped with the historical information. I didn't really cover that in the slides, but he does discuss that. And I think that's important too. Whether or not some parts of the writing, like the story bits, are the researchers. And so there's almost this like I said, with the like jotting down spider senses or Jonerisms, there are parts that just seem like he's writing differently. Whether or not that's the thing to like kind of make you look again or not, who knows? But those histories could help illuminate or show you the way to the treasure. Hopefully this helps you, and if you're going through, you find it interesting. Like I said throughout the video, leave a comment if you have something, because I am curious on others. I think all of us discussing each one of these, rereading it, seeing the things, maybe I pointed something else out that you didn't catch the first time or the second time you read. And similarly, you probably read something that just isn't on my mind either. These are kind of the things that I'm focusing on, but I think as in anything, you should keep an open mind, especially for what other ideas there are, because this is a lot of content to cover and a lot to read to try to pinpoint a location for a treasure. So thanks for watching. Do those social things, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye now.